This is a clip from Beyond Classified. You can access the entire episode now at rockfin.com/FKN+. Say there are two individuals that are exploring out-of-body experiences, and maybe they're even in the same room and they're meditating together, and they want to enter this vibratory and then eventually out-of-body state while they're together, and maybe meet each other in these realms. Is that possible?
Oh yeah, happens all the time. Happens all
Right
the
on.
time. So I taught classes at the Monroe Institute for 35 years, then became their executive director for a couple of years. So I have a lot of classroom time with people who are learning how to enter into and explore these expanded states of awareness. Well, there are specific activities we ask people to do, like, okay, so in your non-physical state, go out to the crystal. There's this enormous crystal. It's out in the pasture by the residential center there. And go meet up with your compatriots, and then, 2, 3, 4 of you go off and have an adventure. Or, at the beginning, you say, go meet somebody and exchange some information. And so when you come back to the physical, you can double check. Yes, you gave me a purple striped unicorn stuffed toy in the non-physical, like something you could never imagine. And they'll go, oh my God, that's exactly what I gave you. And you gave me a lamb screen roll. When you open it up, there's a television inside of it, and you jump in and you go into other dimensions, whatever. Yes. And the same thing can happen not only in the physical, meaning like in an out of body state that's associated with the physical, you can see other people and be with them and converse with them. And also in a higher vibration in the non-physical world, you can do, projects together. Very common that people will do soul retrievals. And
I heard about this, yes.
Yeah, so you can do them as a group too, and sometimes that's really helpful, especially if you've got a big group, some mass casualties caused by, I don't know, an earthquake or a tsunami or something, and all of a sudden there's a lot of people.
Yeah, for the audience that may not be familiar, soul retrieval is basically going into these non-physical realms and basically rescuing lost souls or people who are trapped in certain vibrations and helping them to clear that, right?
Yeah. I mean, so in the exchange that I told you about with Mary Fran and Nolan, I mean, we went straight to the light. Well, in some instances, there are people who they don't go straight to the light. Sometimes they have real attachment to the physical world, so they choose to stick around, like mothers with young children, or if they have a particular attachment to a place, a house, for instance. And sometimes they don't know they're dead. Happens all the time with soldiers. You're running across the battlefield, and the next second, you're in little bitty pieces, but your non-physical body continues to be in the battlefield. Or they were afraid. I remember rescuing a young man who'd been in a bar fight, and in his mind, what happened was that he dove underneath the tables in the bar and he was cowering in the corner. Well, his physical body had been long since dispatched by whoever he was in the fight with. So yeah, there's people who choose to or don't know they're dead, or scared or lost, or because of their religious convictions, they believe that they're supposed to wait for somebody to blow a trumpet and come get them. There's all kinds of reasons that they wouldn't go to the light right away. And that's what soul retrieval is all about. It's going, would you like to go to the light and see your relatives? You want to see your mom and dad or your grandparents? You enter into a conversation, and then off you go. So when there's a lot of people, it helps sometimes to have a couple of you, and you do things like you create this really long escalator, and you escort people to get on the escalator, or you're guides and you're running a whole series of buses to the light. And you're
Yeah.
okay, check, Mary, Fran, hey, Sam, over here, get on the bus. And it works, and it could be really fun,
Yeah, that's
and
amazing.
people appreciate it.
I'm
People
sure.
meaning those they're stuck and their relatives are waiting for them in the light.
Right on. Now, I want to go back to something you said earlier that everything in these realms is occurring at the same time as the time isn't unfolding as we understand it, and it causes interesting effects in our reality. Could you tell us a little bit more about that?
Sure. Um, um, okay, so this is Scott Taylor's view of the universe. Okay, so you're there, and time is now, which means all these lives are now, which means that as we get older, we are getting older in all of these lives, because when I wink out of this life, I'm going to wink out of all my other lives at the same time. Sometimes these lives bleed over each other. And so um, it's not uncommon for a future Scott to come and counsel me on some event in my life, or how I should be approaching this stage in my life, or it's not uncommon for me to go back to a younger Scott and say, remember when you broke up with your girlfriend in the ninth grade? Don't worry about it. It's not really as devastating as you thought it was at the time. Just relax. It's okay. And so there's that. And I've known a couple people in my lifetime who um, have the ability to jump dimensions, meaning in this life, um, I married Anne, and we have, you know, two grandkids and blah, blah, blah.
Hmm.
Oh, she'd shoot me. We have three. um, but, you know, well, let me give you a different example. So this woman, her name's Stephanie, um, she jumped a timeline where in this timeline she broke up with her boyfriend. In the other timeline, she married him. And so what was life like when she made that decision versus over here when she made a different decision? So not only does time get a little warped, but we have all of these different um, um, parameters around, or different dimensions that happen where we are living our life, but having made different choices.
Yeah, I had a guest you're probably familiar with, Dr. Bruce Goldberg. He said that he actually achieved this very thing through an out of body experience where he jumped to a different timeline or dimension where he's living a slightly different life than he used to. And the
Yep.
possibility that anyone could do this if they have the knowledge how.